What do insanely poor people buy that ordinary people know nothing about? The first 4 years of my life were spent in abject poverty. As a child, I would ask my mom if we could get a candy bar. She would explain to me at age 3 that we could get the candy bar, but if we did, it meant we couldn't afford a 2-liter of Coca-Cola. She would phrase it like so: if you get the candy bar, it'll be gone in a few days, but if you get the Coca-Cola, we can have Coca-Cola for the whole week. Amazingly, I knew enough to understand that Coca-Cola for over a week was a better deal than 2 days of a candy bar. As a side effect, I was regularly told no when I asked for things I wanted, mostly Lego sets or He-Man toys. Around age 6, my father's stake in a mineral prospecting company finally paid off. Turns out he had been putting every dime he had into it since before I was born. We went from surviving on mayonnaise sandwiches to having 2015's equivalent of $10,300 per month in income. My little sister was around 2 or so at this time, and she was getting everything she wanted. For the first 6 years of my life, I had learned that asking for things I wanted would always end with a no, so I never asked for anything. My parents weren't able to put it together until my grandmother got very sick and came to live with us. The whole family was out shopping, and my grandmother knew I loved Legos, but I didn't ask for a set of them. Meanwhile, my little sister had a Barbie doll and a My Little Pony in each hand. She stopped and asked me, "Rathedin, you don't want a Lego set?" "Mommy and Daddy always tell me no, Grandma, we can't afford them." I have only a very vague memory of this, but before she did, my grandmother told me this story and said that my mom broke down in tears in the middle of the store sobbing. My dad had a look of defeated failure on his face, according to her. Apparently, it simply never occurred to them the reason I never asked for anything was because I had always been told no. For Christmas, I got 3 Lego Technic sets. Do you know that I give you money for uploading my videos to TikTok, and the one who gains the most views in a month gets an extra $1,000? More details on my Discord server, link in the comments. Lots of school systems do free lunches for kids under 18 during the summer. When I was a kid, I remember my dad taking us to get lunch at the school, then go play disc golf, soccer, or do something else free and fun. It was a blast, and I had no clue it was because we were poor. Dollar theaters, and sometimes they have a free evening show for kids with the purchase of a parent ticket. Many movies were seen by the 3 of us for $4 with a shared popcorn and Coke. My dad was amazing at making us feel rich on basically nothing. I had to move out on my own when I was 17. I had no money at all and drove an old clunker Camry. I got a flat tire to match the flat spare in the trunk. I went to the discount tire on the east side of Indianapolis, where I was living, to see if they could patch it. When they got it on the rack, they said that belts were showing around the tire, in fact, all of the tires, and I would have to replace all 4 tires. I thanked them, went outside, sat in my car, and started crying. The manager came out and knocked on the window. He said that he had a set of tires that would fit my wheels that someone left when they got new tires. I told him thanks, but didn't have any money. He told me not to worry about it and when I graduate, to come back and buy my tires from them. Gotta ask, did you buy your tires from them? Yeah, every time. In fact, my wife, son, and I moved away to Brooklyn, NY. Last fall, when making our final visit home for the year to visit my wife's fam, I drove just so I could get new tires there. They're all still really nice guys. I have been both very poor and very comfortable. A lot of very true statements already posted here, but here's what I have noticed. When you are broke, you can't plan ahead or shop sales or buy in bulk. Poor people wait to buy something until they absolutely need it, so they have to pay whatever the going price is at that moment. If 10 packs of paper towels are on sale for half price, that's great, but you can only afford 1 roll anyway. In this way, poor people actually pay more than others for common staple goods. My office only has a bathroom for all genders, so it has the facilities for men and women. Naturally, there's a tampon machine, and tampons are only 5 cents. Once a month I'll work late, get a roll of nickels, and fill up a grocery sack with tampons for my wife. You can get new car parts from the junkyard for virtually nothing, with added discounts if you remove them from the junkers yourself. I had a 12-year-old car in college, and when it blew a tire, I went to the junkyard and found a decent set of tires. Bought all 4 for $70, which reduced my food budget to $16 for the next 2 weeks. Some lady in the grocery store saw me with a calculator trying to figure out how much ramen I could buy with $16 and handed me a $20. It made me cry. I'm glad I'm not poor anymore, but I'll always remember that lady. It's amazing how much $20 is worth when you don't have $20. When I was a child, Burger King ran a special kids meal where it was too many burgers that were attached to each other like a weird conjoined burger experiment. Sometimes we would go. My dinner was 1.5 of the mini burgers. My mom's dinner was the half I didn't eat, and she would fill up on the free refills of soda. My mom would buy a small personal pizza for my brother on special occasions, like if he did really well on a test at school or something. Even though it was only like $2, she couldn't afford anything for herself, so she would eat his leftover crust. She told me he would always tell her, "Mommy, are you hungry? Go buy one just for you," and she would just say, "No, I'm not hungry, I only want a little snack." She only just told me this a few years ago, and I was shocked because by the time I came along, my dad had gotten a good job, and we lived just like anyone else. I had no idea that my older brother grew up like that. I was so poor once that I would go to Long John Silver's and order a water and crunchies, which used to be free, then sit there and watch the people that would dine in. It was amazing how little they ate, and then they would leave without dumping their tray off in the trash. Fries, hush puppies, chicken, fish, all untouched. No, I didn't eat a piece that was bitten off of. I once saw a woman order a 2-piece fish and more for her kid that ate one hush puppy and a few fries, and then left the rest of it there. It was the best I had eaten in weeks. Glad that's behind me now. Powdered milk. I once worked in a call center and an old lady called almost in tears that cable went up by $1.50. Her line that she repeated more than once was that she couldn't afford fresh milk and had to buy powdered milk. Unless it's due to a lack of refrigeration available or some sort of allergy, only the very poor would buy powdered over fresh milk. I had a really odd childhood. Until age 9, my family would have been classed as upper middle class. Then my father left and my mom went batshit crazy. From 9 to 18, we were dirt poor. I remember being 10 years old and our weekly treat was to go to the Littlewoods Cafe. I think they went bust, and they did a 99p 5-piece breakfast. We shared that among my mom, brother, sister, and me. One of us got the extra item. We take turns. As an adult, I have made sure my children will never know poverty because of excellent memories like that. Nothing motivates you more than memories of fighting over a solitary sausage. A buddy of mine went through a tough time a few years back, and I didn't know about it until he told me about a year ago. One thing that stuck with me was that he made just enough money to survive. By survive, he meant literally enough money to pay rent, utilities, and the cheapest, worst food he could buy. He couldn't afford transportation, not even the bus. He told me about a span of a few months he went through where he literally only ate water, dry noodles, and peanut butter for a few months. He worked at a restaurant and they cut his hours. He couldn't find other work. His first big reality check was that he had to sell his car to make rent one month. The next month he started selling other unnecessary items, like his old TV, some old appliances, and his nicer clothes. He got to the point where he was doing his laundry with dish soap in his sink. He couldn't afford deodorant, razors, or any of the things we take for granted, so he'd steal them from the grocery store. He didn't like to do it, but he had no choice. He never got caught. When he told me all of this, I was floored. I wish he would have told me when it was happening. I would have helped any way I could. At that time, I was by no means living a fancy lifestyle, but I could have thrown him a $20 spot here and there to help him put some groceries in the house or some TP in the bathroom. Just thinking about it makes me ill. He's still poor today, but he works full-time and is happy, at least from what I see. Growing up, my family had its moments of struggle. Our public transport system at the time had tickets which were simply hole-punched with the date and month, not the year. So we'd save them and store them neatly in envelopes marked by month and concession or full fare. After a few years of saving tickets, we pretty much had free train and bus travel for the next 10 years, until they changed the ticketing system to electronically stamped tickets with barcodes. In university, I used to buy 10 to 20 ULBS bags of potatoes, freeze-dried chives, and gravy mix in bulk, not the supermarket packs which are $1 for 2 cups of gravy, restaurant-sized packs that make 8 liters. That was often dinner, usually at the end of the month when money got tight. Sometimes I had even saved enough that I could have mashed potatoes made with some sort of dairy or bacon grease. I also had a cheap tub of protein powder for weightlifters. It was gross. But I would blend it up, usually with water, hold my nose, and gulp it down. It was actual protein and slightly more healthy than a week-long diet of potatoes. Handfuls of ketchup packets from McDonald's. Growing up, my mom used to tell me of a homeless guy she knew of that would go into the local McDonald's and get a free cup of hot water. Then proceeded to add ketchup, salt, and pepper to make himself a hobo tomato soup. Learning the times of the day when meat, bakery, fish, vegetable, and miscellaneous items are reduced to 75% at the local supermarket. I've been learning for years, but it's a good day when you find 400 grams of fresh mints for 99p and you have warm, filling food that you used to take for granted when living with parents. One thing I've noticed about being poor is that you become almost vegetarian because meat just costs too damn much, frozen or fresh. Another thing would be buying the cheapest large container of yogurt and mixing in jam for fruity yogurt. But that's not about being poor, that's just a good idea. Stuff on layaway. My mom would always go to this store that sold heavily discounted irregulars and put it on layaway for our new school clothes. Near where I live, there is one of those guys who cleans out basements and storage buildings for a living. He also has these huge yard sales 2 or 3 times a year along the main highway. Pretty incredible to see. He even puts up traffic control and parking signs because so many people stop when it is busy. This guy saves up all of the kids' clothes he comes across during the year, and toward the beginning of August he has a yard sale that is mostly clothing. The moms from the local trailer parks all come to this sale and fill bags with clothes for their kids, which he then puts in his garage and holds on layaway. These mothers come to his back door and make weekly payments on used school clothes and shoes for their kids all month. Oh God! Bags of frozen veggies and a couple packs of ramen can make a family meal. I used to buy these awful frozen chicken discs wrapped in bacon. They were terrible, filled with gristle and just nasty. Eating those with rice and frozen corn was a real treat. I ate Kraft Dinner, mac and cheese, every day for about 2 to 3 years because that was all I could cook while my mom worked. I could have made SpaghettiOs, but I hated those, that for dinner, and one of those cheap 99-cent packed donuts from the grocery store for breakfast. Lunch was a bologna sandwich and an apple. Finally, when I was about 10 or 11, I started teaching myself how to cook from my mom's old cookbooks, so my meals got a lot better. All carbs and cheap fats, scalloped potatoes, rice, and cheap meats. My local bus service used to have paper transfers, so you'd pay your fare, get the paper transfer that was good for an hour, and then you'd use it for the next bus. But if you were only going to the station, you'd get a paper transfer anyway, then hang around the station for an extra 5 minutes to see if anyone needed it. Conversely, you wait around for people getting off the bus to see if you would score someone's transfer. This only worked if you weren't switching buses, but I got quite a few free rides this way and gave many a transfer away. Going without meds, living in constant pain because you can't afford a prescription. I remember laying in my bed at night, and my mom would be sobbing in her bed from pain because she couldn't afford the meds that would treat her rheumatoid arthritis or anything but generic Tylenol for her pain. I guess that's not really buying anything, but while we're down memory lane. Saving your birthday money from your grandma and aunts and uncles so you can pay for a babysitting course that lets you babysit at 12. Getting a babysitting job at 12 and babysitting every day from 3 until 7 or 8 to earn some money. Giving that money to your dad so he can pay his phone bill and put gas in his car. Getting a real job at 14, working at a fast food joint so you gotta eat dirt cheap. Still giving your dad money, but this time knowing it is going to the casino or the bar, but still doing it anyway. Being poor was awful. 0/10, don't recommend. This is actually a good question that can illustrate something. When you are poor, the system is set up to keep you that way. For example, how much do you pay to cash your paycheck? If you aren't and have never been poor, you probably said pay because you don't. Your check probably goes via direct deposit right into your checking account. But what if you have a bad credit history such that you can't get a checking account? Well, now you have to go to a check cashing service and pay money to get it. This means that out of your already low check, you get to a few dollars down. If you are lucky, you can find a grocery store that will give you feedback and certificates to the store, but even then they might charge you a small fee on top of that. How about this? How much is your car insurance? Did you know that if you bad credit, it's higher? So, now that you are poor, you get to pay more money for your insurance. And you'll find that the only landlord that will rent to you at a place not in the absolute worst part of town will ask you to double your deposit since you've had financial trouble in the past. Well, hope you don't have any kids. At least then you might be able to call a friend or family member to help you out. If you have kids, now you have to find someone to help you drive them to your childcare provider, which you can barely afford as it is anyhow, and take you to work, then pick you and your kids up. If you don't have kids, you can probably at least take a cab today. And then you can fall into another trap. You can get a short-term loan at 300% APR. People who have credit don't get these loans because they are predatory and shitty. They take advantage of people who have no other options. Ordinary people may know a little about them, but usually just say, what kind of stupid person gets themselves into that? Without realizing that it's not a stupid option so much as a last resort for many people in poverty. When you are poor, you pay for everything. Many things that other people don't have to pay for or just don't have to worry about. This is one of the fatal flaws of the bootstrap mentality in which fixing poverty is simply a matter of will. When you're that far down, the deck is stacked entirely against you. The world is rigged to keep poor people poor. If you haven't watched my other videos, then be sure to watch this one. I bet it will amaze you. Or you can watch all our videos in a row in this playlist. Write your stories in the comments, subscribe, turn on the bell, and go to our Discord. There we give you money for uploading our videos to TikTok. You uploaded, you gain views, you got money. Link in the comments.